Hey, everybody, welcome again to our midweek edition of our podcast. This is Two Guys and a Mic. I am one of your hosts. I am Ron Pierce, better known as
And,
RP.
and I'm the most handsome host of the two, Big Sean.
We all have an opinion, don't we? So these weeks are going by kind of fast, now that we've kind of locked down certain parameters for our show. So I find myself, and I don't know if Sean will agree to this, but I find myself kind of, I'm in spots because I used to work on the road. So I'm used to being gone, home. But since it's COVID stuff, I've been mostly at home. Not traveling the way that I was traveling before. And I found myself getting into comfortable pockets of not necessarily working so hard. But with the show, I've been like surprising myself. Like I'll wake up like, oh shoot, I gotta watch this game. I gotta make sure I see this. I gotta make sure. Are you going through the same stuff, or is it just me? Am I the only maniac over here?
No, man, it's same here, man. Like I forgot the baseball game was on today, and I was like, well, that's something we need to talk about. So let me go ahead and, turn that on real quick just to get an update and watch a few innings. And just to let you guys know, the Dodgers and Braves are playing right now, fourth inning. Braves are up 2-0, but the Dodgers are killing them right now, 15-1 in the top of the fourth.
Well, so they got to get this win. If you're the Dodgers, we'll get into the Major League Baseball playoffs, the ALCSs as they're traditionally called, a little bit later into the show. But we're gonna lead in today because it's a midweek show. It's the NFL. So the NFL actually, for the first time in I think forever, just ended yesterday. That week.
Yeah, they had Tuesday Night Football for the first time in 7 years, something like that.
So for the first time in a long time, the week just ended yesterday, and we have a Thursday night game. No, there's no Thursday night game this week, right?
I
don't think
it might
Thursday
be.
Night game
They moved the game to Monday too. They moved the Chiefs and
the Chiefs, and I don't think that there's a Thursday night game.
Well, we're about to find out.
Because of how they had to handle the week, I think. But don't quote me because all I do is talk sports. I don't know many facts.
See, let's see. You're right. There is no Thursday night game this week.
That's what I thought.
And there's two Monday night games. So it's the Chiefs and Bills at 5.
Oh, okay. So it's almost like opening day. It's almost like opening week, rather.
Yep. And then you got the Cardinals and America's bandwagon Monday night.
So,
all right.
Even with the lack of a Thursday night game, Thursday, and I think the big thing about a Thursday night game is for us as Browns fans, we traditionally lose ourselves from Sunday to Wednesday. We're angry, we're frustrated, and then somewhere Wednesday afternoon, we start to kind of turn the page, and by Thursday, we've completely forgotten, not completely forgotten, but we've gotten into a point where we feel like we're okay moving on to Sunday, and as angry as we were, now we're not so angry. So we're okay with whatever happened, and we're okay with being Browns fans again and supporting our team again. So that's one of the keys to this Wednesday show, is that we kind of catch that right at that cusp. And with us being 4-1 for the first time since we were like 10, 11 years old, maybe we can make you guys understand the fervor that we have, the excitement that we have. But maybe we can also drag you guys out of your conundrums and into some level of excitement, because Sunday is a huge game. It's a huge game.
Steeler week, baby.
we've had 3 huge games in a row, if you want to say that. The Cowboys, the Colts was a test too. And now we have our divisional test, one of our, what we call a rivalry, but it really hasn't been a rivalry. We'll be honest about that. Which is, like Sean just said, the Steelers week, man. It's time to show up or shut the hell up. That's how we look at it here in the AFC North. Or as the Steelers coach said earlier, was it today or yesterday? But he said, "Hey man, I ain't got no problem going in the kitchen. The AFC North is like the kitchen, man. It's like the house. It's like the hot place in the house."
Right.
And it really is. It's a tough place to play. It's always hot in the AFC North. And the feeling and the thought has always been, if you can get out of the AFC North, you can win the Super Bowl. So being competitive in the AFC North is really big for the Browns. So
you know what's crazy?
What's up?
We've never won the AFC North.
We have not since it's been the North. Now we won the Central plenty.
We won the AFC Central, right? But since it's been called the AFC North, we've never. And I think they changed it. I want to say right before we moved to Baltimore. So I want to say whenever Jacksonville and Tennessee, because remember when they came into the league, we had 6 teams in the division.
Yeah, we had those.
It was crazy. For some reason, they added both of them into the AFC Central at the time.
Well, the Titans.
Well, they're already there. That's right. They were already there
because they were Houston.
That's right. They just moved from Houston, right?
Yeah. So that I understand why. And actually, it made more sense when they were in Nashville. Once they moved to that because they were closer,
right?
Regionally anyway. But so because this week is so big, we're going to do something a little bit different. We talked about it a little bit in our Sunday night show, but we brought it to fruition. We're actually going to bring in, for the first time in 2 Guys in a Mic history, we're going to bring in a guest, someone else's voice, someone else's opinion, someone else's thought outside of myself, outside of Sean. I mean, and he's so far outside, we're still contemplating on letting him in. So because it's Pittsburgh week. So what we have, or who we have, should I say, is a gentleman that is born and raised in Western Pennsylvania. So he's a lifelong Steelers fan. He's not like one of these guys that just decided the Browns left, so I'm going to root for the Steelers. He's not one of those crappy.
He's not one of those people.
Yeah, he's not one of those.
You won't even call him a person, a real human.
I at least can give him some credit because this has been his team ever since I've known him. I've known him for 25 years. We were in the Air Force together, and we'll bring him in a hot second. But I wanted to kind of give you guys a little bit of a backstory. So, bear with us while we try to, make this connection. Trust and believe he's worth having in this conversation. I love him. His name is Mark Stover, and we're gonna add him in to 2 Guys in a Mic. Mark, are you there? He probably got to get his audio and all of that stuff.
It's probably take him a little while to get in.
But while he's trying to get himself in, again, we're Air Force veterans, Mark and I. We spent a lot of time together. We've done a lot of stuff together.
He's in.
He's in. Is he in?
The enemy is in.
I can't see him. I can't
hear
him. Connect your mic, homie.
I see him, and I see.
Oh,
I see all that. I see all that ugly black and gold back there.
Here it is. What?
Right.
Listen, here I am giving this dude a glowing backdrop, and he's coming in like a piece of shit.
And Ron, you know me. I'm not wearing half the stuff I was going to wear.
How's it going, Mark? Nice to meet you.
Yeah, you too. You too. I love what you guys are doing. I've listened to a few of them.
Appreciate it.
Enjoy it.
I'll say this. Let me do the filler work here. So Sean and I have been friends for close to 35 years. We met when we were like between 10 and 11, and Mark and I again were in the Air Force together. So we're about 25 years in. But these two guys are probably my two best friends to me, my two closest folks that I talk to and kind of confide in or whatever. But this is the first time that they've ever been in any circle collectively. And so this is actually kind of special, even though one of my friends is a bigger jerk than the other jerk that I'm afraid of. So, but as we kind of get ourselves ready for Browns Steelers week, which is in Pittsburgh, by the way, it's in whatever the hell that catch-up stadium is called.
It's named after your favorite wide receiver.
That's a good one.
Shut up.
That's a good one. I hate Hines Ward.
Listen, don't we
I
all?
couldn't stand Hines.
Don't we all? But
running around with a pot belly,
just
smile on his face,
look,
killing us.
Just running the shit out of a route.
Right.
You're the ones who brought up Eric Metcalf the other day. I threw up. He's probably running a punt back in my backyard right now.
He can't stop running punch back.
No.
So as we get into Steelers week, Sean, can you give me your thoughts as we get ready to go into this game? Some of your pregame stuff. What do you think we need to do? What have you seen in the past 4 weeks or 4 games that the Steelers have played? Go ahead with your take.
The first thing that I noticed is that Pittsburgh's defense has improved even from last year. Man, they had a great defense last year, and they look to be a lot more ferocious this year. A lot of team speed on that front seven. So the main thing is we're going to have to protect Baker Mayfield and make sure that he's comfortable in that pocket, because I know that Tomlin is a smart coach. So he's going to try to do everything he can to take away our strengths, which is the running game, and put that game in Baker's hands. And Baker this year has been like a little bit shaky. He hasn't played horrible, but just average. But at some point, there's going to come a time when the game has to be on his shoulders. So, and I think this will be one of them. So need to get him in a rhythm early, get some nice quick completions in and get him into a rhythm, and protect Baker, man. So that's the main thing. And then 2, stop Pittsburgh's running game. They got Connor. Snell's been playing pretty well. I think they have a third guy. Mark, what's the third running back you guys have?
McFarland.
Okay, even when he's gotten in, he's looked good.
He played pretty good last week too, actually.
Right.
He ran decent last week.
Right. So Big Ben hasn't been able to throw the ball downfield a lot yet with accuracy. So I think they're going to try to, rely on their running game as well. And, with their weakness in our defense right now, man, that's definitely something we have to be aware of. So those are my thoughts going into Sunday.
Okay. I agree with the majority of that. But before I get into mine, I'm gonna open the floor up, and I may regret this in a minute, but I'm gonna open the floor up to Mark. Mark, I want to ask you to give me your take from a Pittsburgh fan, a real, actual Pittsburgh Steelers fan's perspective. What do you see going into this game? What are you guys' concerns, if you have any, for our team, and what do you have for your team, if you have any?
Well, Ron, the interesting thing is, as you know, I've lived here for 7 years. I've seen more Browns games in the last 7 years than Steelers games. I've been to your stadium more than I've been to mine.
You have.
So I have a unique perspective on this. I listen to 92.3 The Fan.
Well, that's awful. But go ahead.
Well, it can be, but I mean, it's so I'm not coming at this from I'm not coming up here from Bellevue outside of Pittsburgh with no exposure to the reality that is the ongoing evolution and finally, in my opinion, progression of Browns football. You guys are in a very interesting situation right now because I texted or I messaged you, you're a quarterback away the other day. He's the only question mark I got, to be honest with you. He's the only question mark I got. Yeah, could you use a middle linebacker for sure? Are you a safety or two in need? Yeah, but those are complementary pieces that round it out. When Ben was winning Super Bowls, it wasn't because he was out there throwing for 380 yards a week. It was because there was a defense there and they could run the ball. That's the kind of team we have now. And if you want to have some fun watching Ben throw deep, look up a dude named Chase Claypool.
No, listen, I don't want to talk about Chase Claypool yet. You just stop talking about his ass until we get to that point.
But let me get off the Steelers back to the Browns. The Browns can run the ball. The Browns are doing great things in play action. And the reason I bring up Baker is every week, though, there's been one what looks to be unnecessary interception. Trying to force a ball in there don't need to be forced. Once he figures out that he can just throw it out of bounds, and there's no harm in punting. You guys have a good punter. There's no harm in punting the ball sometimes. But you throw that pick, and never mind how that flips the field and what the next team does with the mental part of that. That getting inside his head is something you just don't even want to be dealing with. So the Browns are very interesting right now because if this kid figures it out, you guys are, forget relevant, you're important to the NFL for the next 10, 12, 15 years.
I agree with that. I can't believe it, but I agree.
That's fair.
You've got
very fair perspective.
Already. You have a Hall of Famer. You have this dude on your team right now.
Yeah.
You have this generation's Mean Joe. The dude can do it all. Absolutely. Eventually you'll find another pass rusher. You'll plug a hole in your secondary, but you've got talent at 2 all-pro wide receivers. You have an all-pro and don't tell the coach this. If you watch Gronkowski play us over the last several years, just run your tight end straight down the middle. You'll have fun all day long.
Down the seam. You're absolutely right.
Run your tight end on us down the seam. It's gotten better since we got Minka and Devin because they can both run a bit. But, man, all what's his name, Belichick had to do was say, with no sleeves on, run Gronk right down the middle and watch a 30-yard completion.
It's always a problem for you guys. Like, Gronk is the guy who beat you guys. Him and Belichick just putting those plays together where they just run up their seam, get into those one-on-one situations, and that kills you guys every time. So you're absolutely right.
And that's one thing we haven't really done yet this season is really utilize our tight ends. We're starting to get Hooper in the mix a little bit more week to week. Who's the rookie? What's his name? Harrison Bryant?
Yeah, Harrison Bryant.
He looks pretty good, but we haven't really featured our tight ends. And I think with having Odell and Jarvis on the outside, plus with the running game, at some point, we should be able to really attack the middle of the field with our tight ends, as Mark pointed out.
What have I been asking for from the first time that we started really doing the show on a regular basis? I've been saying we got to get the tight ends involved because you have to develop that rhythm for Baker. I don't know if it's going to be up the seam all the time. However, you got to be able to get this dude
right
in some level of comfort, some level of a rhythm, whether it's a screen or whether it's just a short something where he feels like I can make this completion. So that's Mark. And Mark did. I'm sorry, Sean. Give me like 2
No,
seconds.
you're good.
Mark did message me, and then he texted me because I laughed at his comment. I only laughed. I'm gonna say this in the show. I only laughed because he was right, but I didn't want him to know that he was right. The problem with that is we've been knowing each other for 25 years, so he knew that laugh meant I was full of shit. You know what I mean? So, yeah, listen, I have ridden Baker as much as I can ride him when he does things wrong. I think he has talent, but I'm questionable about him at certain points, and I'll get into that as we get a little bit further into to my part of the show. But go ahead, Sean. I'm sorry.
No, I was just going to say that when you're developing a young quarterback, the two things that you want to give him to help him is a good tight end and a running game. That's something easy they can always fall back on. So, and Stefanski's a smart guy. So I think going forward, I think you're going to see our tight ends, use a little bit more, especially with Njoku being back healthy. So now we have like 3 legitimate pass catching tight ends that we can take advantage of. So
I hope so. So Mark, go ahead and give us your thoughts about Pittsburgh and what they have available, or what you think these guys do well, and what you think going into this game is going to help them win and or potentially lose. I know you don't think they're going to lose, but just give me your take on that, bro.
Well, you know better than anybody. I don't ever pretend like they can't lose. You were talking in either last show or the show before about people kind of breaking the Browns' balls about, yeah, but you ain't played nobody. No, but you won games you had to win. It ain't your fault who showed up, but you beat them. You beat them. And in the past, I remember it being at Applebee's in Astor Beale a couple years ago. You guys are playing the Jags. You were up, and all Joe Hayden didn't have to do was let that cat get by him on a double move. And what happened? Joe bit on the double move, touchdown, you lost a game. You had no business losing. And over the last several years, there was a bunch of those, sometimes one-score games.
Too many, way too many.
What happens with good teams is they start winning those games that they have to win, and you end up being with 11, 12 wins like that. So it ain't the Steelers' fault that they've had, quote, an easy schedule either. But in the past, I've seen Steelers teams lose. Good Lord, over the last 10 years, if I saw the Raiders on there and it said Steelers by 7.5, I'm like, we ain't gonna win that game, and haven't most of the time. So the Steelers currently can run the ball a bit, and Ben's only having to throw for about 230 a week. And if Ben Roethlisberger is throwing for 230 and 2 touches and no picks every week,
that's a problem. That's a problem.
I don't need Ben Roethlisberger throwing for 5,000 yards and 30 touchdowns. We didn't win garbage when he was doing that because that meant we couldn't run the ball. And it meant also he has to throw it a lot because the defense is giving up killer points. This is not that defense. This defense is for real. They can, I'm not dismissing what my man did from Philly, running back. Broke off that 70-yard run the other day. But Hilton,
that was the only one he had.
Yeah, but if Hilton hadn't missed that tackle in the gap, he stopped right there at the last scrimmage. So no one's running the ball on us really. Kareem can. Hopefully he don't. If that's the key. If Baker's dropping back 40 times, we're going to win that game.
And that's what we don't need as from the Browns' perspective. We do not need. I've said that for weeks.
You don't want T.J. Watt and Bud Dupree and old ass Cam Hayward and Stephon Tuitt getting 40 opportunities to go and hurt that young man because they're good at what they do.
Last year,
I agree 100%.
Last year before last, Mark and I went to that shitty stadium that's right there on the river. In Pittsburgh. And let me tell you something. Stephon Tuitt was standing in the end zone, right? We were only about 15 rows off the end zone. He was almost as big as the goddamn goalpost. I don't know if I've ever seen a bigger human being in my life other than Shaq. Like, he was huge. He looked like he wasn't even real. Like, he looked fake.
He was hungry.
Yeah, he looked like he's always damn hungry. That's what the hell he looked like. All right, well, I guess it's on me. So, as the biggest, or one of the biggest Pittsburgh haters that could possibly ever live, I'm going to be honest this week, man. Ben looks pretty good on his road back to being healthy, on his road to back to being back the quarterback of the Steelers. Last week he threw for 3 touchdowns, which gave him 10 for the season, and he's only got 1 pick. And kind of piggybacking on what Mark was alluding to, they got this kid. His name is Chase Claypool. I mean, I'm not gonna give him, any other receiver that they've had. I'm not gonna give him their thing. I'm not gonna say he's like AB because he's not like AB.
No.
I'm not even gonna say he's like anybody else that we've seen them have. He's a stretch guy, but he's also a guy that can play in the seam. He's also a guy that can run across and catch. He's a route runner. He's not just a streaker down the field. This kid is special. And he's special. Now, AB was special, but AB's 5'10". He's my size. This kid has a little bit of size on him, a little bit, and he can catch. He can just freaking catch the ball. And he causes problems for guys. So, we've had issues with our defensive backs. So that's one of the things that I'm concerned with, watching that dude run up and down the field. Ben is a smart quarterback. I don't give a shit if he's hurt. I don't give a shit if he's, have hungover. Ben has kind of done a number on Browns over his career.
And especially, we have a ton of injuries in our secondary too.
And we got a shit ton of injuries in our defensive backfield. So that's a concern. Claypool can be a nuisance.
Really, Mark?
Sean, just
okay. That's all right.
That's what he did.
It's okay.
Trust me. This is what this jerk does, which is why he's a jerk. Claypool had like 7 catches, 110 10 yards last week, and 3 touchdowns. Ben threw 3 touchdowns. So who do you think his favorite receiver can or might be coming into this week? Might be Claypool. So we gotta focus on that kid. And if you guys hadn't said it enough, I'll say it again. Pittsburgh's defense is really, really good. Like really good again. But they're better than they were, I'd say, last year, and definitely better than they were the year before that. They're
so good. You know what? And they're so good that they added 5 years of Joe Hayden's career.
Right.
He's able to play off. He doesn't have to play man to man anymore.
I was gonna say he's a slot guy now. So he's gone from having to cover your number one guy. Because imagine this, he'd have to cover Claypool if he was here. But if he were here, had he stayed here, he probably wouldn't be in the league right now.
Right, and plus because Pittsburgh can get pressure with just the front four,
absolutely.
He doesn't have to cover the receiver that long. Here, man, he had to cover the receiver for 10, 15 seconds.
And he had to be 10 yards off of.
Right.
By the way, based on our defensive coordinators. Pittsburgh's defense is really good. They're second in the league versus the run. They had 5 sacks last week, 11 quarterback hits, 11 quarterback hits, which is a stupid number. And they've had 20 sacks in their 4 games. So again, we're talking about something really, 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 really stupid in terms of numbers. However, I just tend to believe that they've played inferior teams in certain angles. It doesn't take anything away from their defense, and I'm not trying to do that. I'm just keeping things even. I don't know that the guys that they played were equal to them across that line. It's tough to be equal to them across the line, defensive line towards whatever offensive line they're playing. It's difficult to have a running back that's really that good, but I watched them destroy Barkley, I think that was.
Yes.
Yeah. So, I mean, these guys are legit. Now, moving towards the Browns, I don't think that they've seen, they being the Steelers, I don't think they've seen an offensive line as good as ours. The offensive line is playing great. Bill Callahan has done an awesome job putting those dudes together. We're not necessarily road grading guys. We're just doing the technical stuff right. We're opening up the right holes for the guys. They don't have to do too much dancing in the backfield. So it's been working. Now, last week against the Colts, we didn't necessarily run the way we want to run. Of course, some of that had to do with
They have a good run.
Nick, I'm sorry, what was that? What you guys
have a good run defense, though.
No, they do, and I'm not taking anything away from them. They actually played us really well. However, we didn't have Nick Chubb, and I would have liked to have seen how Nick Chubb sized up versus them. I would have liked to have seen how Nick Chubb might size up against the Steelers, to be honest with you, but
I don't.
I think Kareem is capable. Shut up. I think our offensive line is good enough to allow us to do certain things that we need to do in the run game. Our run game last week, we just were persistent. We didn't get off the ball like we normally had leading into that game. And I think we're going to have similar problems this week. So having said that, I see Baker having to be a bigger part of the game. That's a bit scary for me, but I'm going to go another way for the second, and then I'll get into that Baker thought. Yeah, we just got to stay committed to that run because it's got to be something to slow those guys down. And I also think we got to go short passes a lot too, just to keep those guys off Baker's ass and to keep them out of the offensive backfield. Again, those defensive backs versus Ben and those guys, that just, to me, we're not equipped to handle that. So that just means that line has to get pressure. We got to get pressure. We got to pressure Ben. We got to get in Ben's face. We got to knock Ben down. We got to, we got to create a ruckus in that offensive backfield. We cannot just sit back and hope that a Hall of Fame quarterback that's actually had time and is actually playing well right now is just going to all of a sudden not play well because he's playing the damn Browns. You know what I mean? Like, he's going to have to, defensively, we're going to have to, Joe Woods is going to have to crank those guys up and get them together. Joe Woods, by the way, for those of you guys who don't know, is the Browns' defensive coordinator. He's going to have to dial up some shit. We've played good. Even in those situations where we didn't necessarily think that we were going to play good, we've played good. So we have to play even better going into this game. I mean, we lead the league in turnovers, takeaways. We got 12. Myles Garrett is as Mark pointed out, Mean Joe Green. He's a goddamn animal. He can, take on 2 or 3 guys. However, we're going to need some from Olivier. We're going to need some from Sheldon. The Browns have to be creative going into this game. Now, my last point is Baker Mayfield. He's gonna have to make a play, or 2, or 3. He's gonna have to make a throw, or 6. He's gonna have to be better than we've seen him be. And I agree with Mark. I don't like agreeing with Mark when it comes to sports, but he's absolutely correct about Baker. Baker's gonna have to make, I think, in this game, he's gonna have to make a play. And Baker is awful in the fourth quarter.
You know what? I don't mean to interrupt you, but let me ask you this, because this is something that's been on my mind. What do you think has led to Baker's lack of confidence? Because when he came in that game, was it a Thursday night game against the Jets, and made his debut, he was full of confidence, wasn't hesitated, letting the ball rip, good accuracy, and he played that way the rest of the season. Now, when you go back and look at those numbers, there were some games where he was low inaccurate, where his completion percentage was maybe just above 50. But he always kept that edge, that confidence when he knew that he could go out there and win a football game. And all of a sudden last year, with Freddie at the helm, he never looked comfortable. He didn't look comfortable all season. I can't remember one game where he looked confident.
Even in some of those games we won, he didn't really look
right. This year, you've seen flashes of the confidence, but it's not consistent. The Cincinnati game, you saw him look confident. The first half against Indianapolis, you saw him look confident. The other games were kind of, touch and go. So what do you think is the main reason why Baker doesn't have the same confidence as he did in 2018?
I think it's a kind of a layered situation. So I think what he had being a rookie was the same thing a lot of other rookies have. You get guys that you come in the league and guys don't have a lot of tape on you. Guys don't really know how to play you. So you kind of draw a couple plays in the dirt. You play pretty well. You do what you normally like to do, blah, blah, blah. Well, that's really just a sample size. And guys get a chance to go back, and God forbid, guys get an opportunity to go back, not just for a game or two. These guys get, 8, 9 games of tape and an off season to figure you out. Now, you felt like, as the quarterback, if you're Baker, you feel like, oh, I did great. Now, like I know, when Baker came in to camp last year and when Baker came into the season last year, he was fat.
True.
He wasn't in shape. He got married.
True.
He went on vacations. He kind of went and hung out a little bit.
Did Baker was 35 million commercials.
Yeah, and 35 million commercials. Baker did not put the work in. So I think there's a part he didn't put the same kind of work in. Let me say. I don't want to say he didn't do any work. He didn't do the important work if he did any work. He didn't keep himself in shape, and he didn't allow himself to get immersed in what the Browns actually are. He just assumed, I'm back in Norman. I'm good. I can just show up and I'll be baked. The bake show. And that's just it. You have to be better than that. This is the NFL. You got defensive linemen, interior defensive linemen that run as fast as you do. Not to mention the edge guys. You talking about outside linebackers that's running like they freaking wide receivers. So you have to understand that the NFL is way more complex. The game is way quicker, and you have to commit yourself. I think that Baker didn't commit himself, and that did mess with his head. And I don't think he's ever had the level of scrutiny. This is Cleveland, bro. I know it's not New York. I know it's not Los Angeles, but this is Cleveland.
But we are New York when it comes to the Browns. When it comes to the Browns, we're pretty hard.
Absolutely. Absolutely. We are New York when it comes to football. We want our quarterback to be like Bernie was. Bernie was always ready. He wasn't the most athletic, but he was always ready. So I think that is the problem with Baker. I think he's trying to figure that part out because, again, when you've always been told that you're great and then you start having people regularly saying, you ain't that great, dude. I think it does mess with your psyche. That's
right. He was humble. He was humble.
Yeah, he got humble, and that's what I think. Mark, tell me what you think, man. Coming from the outside looking in, what do you think?
Sean just said the word I had in my mind because I've been thinking about a couple guys. I got in an argument with somebody the other day about Phil Rivers being a first ballot Hall of Famer. I said, hell no, not first ballot. But numbers. I'm like, you please point to me in December, in January, more importantly, where this dude won you a game. And he doesn't. Flacco, same guy, except for 1 year where he had, I don't know what happened.
He was magical that year.
I think Cam Newton put on Joe Flacco's suit that year.
Right.
And, it's all about what are you willing to do, and can you do it when it matters? And Baker is on what, his third offensive coordinator? His
Fourth.
Fourth. Okay. He's always been great, had his butt kissed, comes here. My first impression of him was, okay, this is Johnny Manziel with 2 more IQ points. Watch me. I'm telling you, he's a better quarterback than Manziel in every way, without question. He's the best quarterback. He can throw it deep. He can throw a dart. He can run. Not, he's not the fastest dude, but he can definitely run. He can extend plays. He can do everything. But now it's good. How bad does he want to work for it? And if he's going to be the hardest working dude you got, you guys have a great situation ahead of you. But he's got to want to be. That was what made AB great for us. He was the hardest working dude we had until he lost his mind. If Baker is willing to be studying, just be studious with it, work hard, figuring that kind of stuff out, and figure out how to win games late, figure out how to win games you shouldn't win, figure out how to be in games.
Yeah.
I'm talking like a homer, but I had the blessing of watch Ben for 15 years or whatever it's been. And he's fat. And
he is.
Yeah. But what that dude has done for me over the years is I don't panic in games when we're down. I just don't panic because we've seen it too many times. You and I have been to those games.
I was hoping that you weren't going to bring that shit.
6.
Too many games, man.
I was hoping that you were not going to bring
that game.
There have been games he made me sick to my stomach in the fourth quarter. He always pulls a play. You can't sack him in the fourth. And he's going to do something. He's going to make a big play at some point in that fourth quarter to pull that game out.
At some point, he's going to do something. I mean, we were at a game that the Browns, Mark and I were at a game. The Browns were winning the entire game. I wish I was lying when I'm getting ready to say. I wish I was lying. We were up like 13, 14 points in the second quarter, and Mark was like, okay, all right. So then we score another touchdown. Now we're up like 20 points. Everybody around him's going berserk. He's like, it's all right. We still got time, right? It has rained. It has snowed. It has sleeted. It has hailed. I'm not joking. I had a pocket full of water in my coat. It was all kind of crazy in the stadium.
The drunk dude, remember the drunk dude wanted to fight me?
The drunk dude. Which is a lot of drunk dudes, so it's hard to decipher.
It was the mayor.
However, Mark just kept this kind of retarded, like, nope, I'm good. Nope, nothing's happening. I'm okay. And Ben Roethlisberger in the fourth freaking quarter, coming towards us, by the way, threw 3 touchdowns and 210 yards, I think.
I remember that game.
Freaking quarter.
And won the game.
I could not believe it.
That was also a game where they had a phantom roughing the passer. He threw an interception, and because we blocked them on the return, they called a roughing the passer and gave the ball back. I've never seen that call before that game and never seen it since.
Ain't seen it since. They make them up for the Browns. You know,
they make up rules for the Browns, man. That was also the game that I got peanuts thrown at me,
pulling into the parking lot. Am I correct, Mark?
That's right. I was driving and I'm wearing this, and they took the money and they yelled peanuts, and then they repeated it down the way, peanuts, and I'm like, what's that? And she's like, you'll see. And when we turned the corner, because of me, they covered my car in peanuts. And
hard shell peanuts, not just regular peanuts.
Full
shell peanuts. And I had the window down. I'm like, no, I'm a Browns fan. And they were throwing them at me like, yeah, well, you brought his ass.
Yeah.
It was all bad.
All we could do was laugh because, I'm dumb, but
That's Cleveland fans for you.
I know how to act in Cleveland.
Right. And it's mild now. It's nowhere near how bad
No, it ain't like
the whole
It
stadium.
ain't like that. It's
It's
not like
nothing
that.
like how it was.
And if you remember the next year, this is Romeo Cornell, Derek Anderson, I believe. You guys were up 20-7 or 20-0. I was driving to Omaha. I had to listen to this game on
XM, right? You were listening
Sirius,
to
yeah.
XM, right?
And similarly, I'm like, I was annoyed that they were down that much, but I'm like, all right, you don't panic when you've got a quarterback like that, because he's shown you time and again he can handle it. And Baker can be that because he has the arm strength. He's got the tools. You'd
He's
like
got
to
the ability too.
higher, but
Just needs to get the confidence back.
It's got to be in his head.
One thing I observed.
Go ahead,
I'm
Sean.
saying, so one thing I observed, it seems like Stefanski is treating Baker like he's a rookie. With the new system. Because I noticed, like, when Big Ben's rookie year, also Russell Wilson's maybe first 2 years, they didn't put too much pressure on those guys to make plays. They relied heavily on the run game as they learned the system and then became better passers later. And I think that's what he's doing with Baker, saying, hey, we know this has been your fourth head coach and fourth coordinator in 3 years. His head is probably swimming, probably trying to simplify the game for him right now, and you're utilizing your strengths. So that's kind of what I'm seeing from Steph. He's kind of treating him with kid gloves without making him a game man. I don't think he's making him a game manager necessarily.
Yeah, I don't think so.
I just think he doesn't want to put too much on his plate with a new system. And I think as the season goes along, you may see different plays in the repertoire start to come out as Baker gets a little bit more familiar with the offense and gets more comfortable with his guys. Because even with that being said, the roster has been changing over the last few years too. You have a few mainstays, but you're still adding different pieces and parts, and along with the new system. So I think it's going to take a little bit of time for him to, get comfortable.
I think so, and I agree with that sentiment. I actually, I agree with what Mark was saying as well. Like at the end of the day, I mean, the best players that have ever played always put in the work. I don't care what sport it is. Mm-hmm. From football to basketball to baseball, all of our major sports. Also, the NHL, the guys that I just read an article earlier today where it said Jimmy Butler was in the gym today. Greatness is made in the gyms and in the practice. I know Allen Iverson was great, but he didn't want to practice. That wasn't what he was saying. I know what he was saying. I've seen him talk about that since. However, everybody gets this idea of why do I need to practice? Why? Listen, you have to put the work in. The stuff that LeBron does, the stuff that Michael Jordan did, the stuff that Magic did, the stuff that Larry Bird did, the stuff that Jerry Rice did, the stuff that Montana did, the stuff that Tom Brady does still. He's 40 years old. Listen, I'm not that much older than that dude, and I'm not trying to get hit by no damn body.
Right.
So to be that guy and to have that makeup, you're a different kind of guy, but you have to put that level of work in if you want to be that great or if you want to be that good, because even the marginal guys put in work. So you can't just go home and sit for 2 months, 3 months and think, oh, I'm good.
And look at the work that Michael Vick didn't do. Michael Vick,
think about that
at all. That he would get the DVDs of the playbook and just put them in his duffel bag or something like that.
Think about that. As good as we all know Michael Vick actually was, are you kidding me? Think about if he would have put in the work.
Right.
Like, to me, none of those guys are exempt. I'm not suggesting any one guy is less exempt than the other. The work is the work. And we all know, I remember when Ben first broke in, and somehow he got to the AFC Championship game. That first, he won, like, what was it, 10, 11 straight? How many
Something
games?
Like that.
I think they won 12 straight.
12 straight. Got
So.
to the AFC Championship game. And I kept saying to myself, I said, this piece of shit is going to be a problem. And guess what he did? he became a problem for us.
Especially because he thought he was coming to the Browns. Remember, he said he thought he was getting drafted by us.
And then
he's been torturing us ever since.
He just circled us every time. Oh,
Right.
You didn't pick me, so I'm gonna make sure. But you got to put the work in to even say that stuff. So look at Myles Garrett. You remember on draft day he said he wants to sack Ben Roethlisberger, and everybody lost their minds.
Mm-hmm.
Guess what he did the first time he played Ben Roethlisberger? He sacked him. Nobody is questioning what he said right this second. You know why? Because he put the work in. The thing with Baker is Baker has to put the work in. And I'm not sure that Baker has always put the work in because it's always come easy to Baker. Like the receivers that come to the team when he was in Norman, they were like, yo, you need to go get with Baker. But when OBJ came, hey, you better go holler at that dude. So to Baker, he like, man, what you talking about? When Jarvis came, I mean, these dudes are all pros. You ain't even an all pro, my guy.
Right.
You better go check these guys. You better go ask these guys what's popping. How do you want the ball? Where do you want the ball? Like the problem in sports now is that we water it all down and we lose sight of the guys that are really, really good and the guys that really make a difference in our locker rooms, whatever that locker room is. So you get into a locker room and you see, you know, Jarvis Landry, he's just like, oh, well, I'm on his team, so he need to respect me. What? This is the dude that has the most receptions in 4 years than anybody who's ever played football. But you want him to respect you. Why? What work did you put in? You dig what I'm saying? You see what I'm saying? Like,
right.
Those are the things that work actually does, man. So let's move on because we can keep going on that tangent for the rest of the night.
Can I ask a quick question?
Go ahead.
How many times have you watched a replay of Derrick Henry tossing Norman?
So my first recollection of what happened, because I was in the car. Mark texted me yesterday, last night. I'm in the car, and he texted me, did you see that? Now, again, this is 25 years worth of a relationship. He texts me, did you see that? I didn't text you for what, like 30 minutes, 35 minutes or so?
Yeah.
I get home. I didn't want to answer it because I'm like, what is he talking about? What are you talking about? I get home, and one of the first things I see on Facebook is Josh Norman being thrown at least 4.5 yards away from this big monster. And I said, oh, that's exactly what he's talking about. And I text him back like, yeah, that was unnecessary. And he's like, yeah, he just ragdolled. Like, how did we know? How did I know that that's what he was talking about? That's 25 years worth of a damn
He threw
relationship.
that man farther than Brandon Whedon threw most passes.
Underhanded Brandon Weeden. Oh, yeah, that was further. Yes, you're absolutely correct. So moving forward.
I'm sorry.
I can't believe this son of a bitch brought up Brandon Weeden, by the way. Moving forward. So we'll start with Sean. Sean, what's your prediction for Sunday? And then we'll move on to Mark.
I don't think that we're ready quite yet to go in there and get a win. Not saying that we can't. I think Pittsburgh is going to try to prove a point and try to make us feel like we're still their little brother. And I don't know if we have the confidence yet to go in there and get that game. So I think Pittsburgh will pull it out, unfortunately. Although Vegas only has it at 3.5. Which means probably a lot of money is coming on the Browns.
They got it at 3.5. I saw that earlier.
Yeah, they have it at 3.5, so probably a lot of money is coming on the Browns. But I'm looking at something around like 28-17 Pittsburgh. I don't think we'll get blown all the way out. I think we'll kind of hang around, and then Big Ben will do what he normally does and make some plays in the fourth quarter and pull away.
Okay. Mark?
I just wonder with the lack of crowd, how that would affect Baker, because similar defense. Y'all lost there last year to Duck Hodges.
Right.
Please don't remind me.
I'm sorry,
Please
Sean.
don't remind me of
That
that.
happened.
I was sick. I think I went to bed after that game. I did. I went to bed late in the dark for about an hour or two.
Yeah, he didn't answer his phone. Trust me, he didn't answer his phone. I tried to call it. He wouldn't. He wouldn't.
This team has constituted won 8 games with those 2 clown quarterbacks last year. This is if you ain't 4 wins better with Ben and that defense, I don't know what to say. So that means we don't lose home games. I'm not saying the Browns can't win. I just feel like at home right now we're 5 points better. So, and I don't even want to make it. I wouldn't be surprised if it was a 2-point game, but I just feel like we'll win this one. And by the time we come to play you guys, who knows? They'll probably magically the governor will be like, hey, in Ohio, everybody can go to the game at the same time. And,
Right.
We'll get to go to a full house. I don't know. I like something maybe a little lower scoring, like 24-22 Steelers.
24-22 Steelers, you said?
Coming down to whoever makes that second half turnover that they don't need to make.
And that usually is what happens in a Browns-Steelers game.
It's because it's always close. I mean, the thing that Tomlin said earlier, I want to say I watched the interview today, but I don't know that he did the interview today. It may have been yesterday. But he called the AFC North the kitchen. It's always hot in the kitchen. You have to be prepared to play in the kitchen. So I agree with Stover that I don't see it being a high-scoring game. I actually predicted it. I mean, high being high. I predicted it to be 23-21. However, I'm taking the Browns. Am I a homer? Sure. I don't give a shit. But I think, and listen, and the scarier part is, as I listened to Mark talk about the Steelers last year, like that's a sentiment that I didn't put into my pick, to be completely honest. And he's absolutely right. Like, honestly, just being straight up and down, being objective, he's absolutely right. The Steelers were defensively really good last year, and their defense kept them in a lot of games that those 2 quarterbacks or that offense, they couldn't even get a goddamn first down at times. And that defense just forced a lot of those wins to happen. So I didn't think about that. However, I don't care. I'm picking the Browns 23-21 because we gotta, at some point, we have
You're
to
right.
turn
At
the
some
corner.
point we do. We have to turn that
We
corner.
gotta turn the corner at some point. And to me, if we lose this game to this team within our division after already having our asses handed to us from Baltimore earlier in the season in game 1, come on, man. We have to man the fuck up at some point. And I'm putting my money right this second with that 3.5, which ain't much. But that minus 3.5 that's hanging over the Steelers.
For a road game,
that ain't
us
much.
having one in Pittsburgh in quite a while. I was surprised that the line was that low.
Yeah, that ain't much, man.
Let me ask Mark a question. How does the city of Pittsburgh feel about the Browns-Steelers rivalry right now? I know that Baltimore seems to be your number one rival, but traditionally, the Browns have always been the Steelers' number one rival. But how does the city view the rivalry at this time?
So guys our age, okay, the first game my dad took me to, Three Rivers Stadium, 1989. Browns, what was it, 51, Steelers 0?
1-0.
Oh, yeah, I remember that game.
Stupid ass running in. That was my first game.
Wow.
Yeah. So we know what it was like when it was the other way. It was the Browns whooping us most of the time for decades. The younger folk, all they've seen is, oh, Cleveland has a football team now?
Okay.
Oh, dummy. Learn the history of football. Greatest football player ever lived played in Cleveland. Go see his statue and bow down. So guys our age, maybe late 30s and older, they know better. And the younger kids don't have any appreciation of it. So when you repeatedly beat someone like that, you have to consider the circumstances. Why is it?
Right.
They won't even allow themselves to have any continuity. It becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy of, and really, Haslam was a minority owner in the Steelers. We thought he was paying attention. Like, I would accidentally shut up and watch the chief and then his kid and then his nephew. Hey, here's what you do. You hire these people, leave them alone to do their
He
job.
wasn't listening. Listen, he was running that like he was running the Pilot J, man.
Yeah. He had to get his mitts in on everything. So
Right.
So watch.
And that's one thing I'll give Haslam credit for. Now I haven't heard a peep out of him all season.
Well, that's the best thing that's happened. Honestly, him being out of the way might be the best thing that has happened, because I now, and I'll give you a little piece of, I know how Mark generally comes to Cleveland. I mean, and I ain't talking about he comes to Cleveland and he's like in a like a nondescript jumpsuit. The first time we went to the Browns game, this dude had on Steeler gloves. He had on like Steeler boots, and he kept saying, "Oh, I left some more Steeler shit in my car." I'm like, dude, what is your issue? So we go to Pittsburgh last year before last, and I was dressed in my Browns garb, and legitimately, I'm not joking, I may have been the only Browns fan in that damn end zone. I may have been the only Browns fan in that end zone. But I gave grief as much as I got grief, and the Steeler fans, as much grief as they gave me, they were actually pretty. In terms of the rivalry, I got booed when we went to breakfast. Am I correct, Mark? You remember that? I got booed when I went to breakfast.
Rightly so.
I got booed at breakfast the entire time because I had on all my Brown stuff. We got booed at the tailgate when we walked up, except for when we met up with Mark's friends. They didn't boo me. They fed me. They gave me beer. Everything was good. And then when we got into the stadium, it was okay until I started standing up and cheering, because we were winning at some point in that game.
Yeah,
and
that whole first quarter, we couldn't complete a pass.
Yeah, it was kind of an ugly game for the Steelers. But I was standing up every completion. I was standing up on every first down. I was standing up on every good defensive play. So as the game carried on and as the Steelers got their momentum going, I started getting grief. There were people asking me to give me my hat. I owed them money. I mean, it was not cute. So, but that lets me know that the possibility of the rivalry that can be, it exists. It's there. And those were older fans, like Mark was kind of alluding to. I don't know that I encountered a lot of younger fans. I encountered a lot of guys that were closer to our age, and they were giving me the most grief. Like, they couldn't wait. They were like, "Where you going? Are you leaving? You can't leave yet. You stay here." I'm like, dude, relax. Like, I'm high-fiving people on the way out. All right, we out. It's all good. But I think that rivalry, in terms of how Pittsburgh sees it, I think they're going to give everybody grief that comes to their stadium, to be honest with you. But
you know why we won it?
Huh?
The one with the Ravens is contrived. They stole your team, moved it down there, and right away they were good. We were like, the Browns all of a sudden are good. They're not in Cleveland anymore. Ray Lewis is tackling everyone on the planet. Someone that's basically my uncle won the Super Bowl with them as quarterback. You know, it was such a hard time. And I remember because we were in Alaska.
Yeah. You remember I didn't watch that Super Bowl. You remember that? I was like, man, no, I'm not watching that. I couldn't watch. It was 2 Super Bowls in history that I didn't watch. I didn't watch the Ravens, Giants, and I didn't watch the Steelers, Cowboys. And you were so pissed off at me for not watching that Super Bowl because you wanted me to come to your party. I'm not coming to that stupid party.
You needed to be there only so you could see a 35-year-old grown man with 3 kids, not me. This is one of our sergeants, Sean.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
He's from Pittsburgh too. When O'Donnell threw that second interception, he stood up and launched his coffee table, hors d'oeuvres, drinks, and all across.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's the game that I always accuse Neil O'Donnell of throwing.
He might have thrown that game. However,
Because he threw 2 interceptions to Larry Washington and
Larry Brown.
Larry Brown, right? Larry Brown got him
listen.
paid and never heard from Larry Brown again. He went to the Raiders and stunk.
That's right.
Listen, Mark used to have a Mark Malone jersey when he was a kid.
Stop it. Arguably, maybe the worst starting quarterback in the history of the NFL. Mark Malone was garbage. He's trash as a commentator.
Yep. And he had a Louis Lips jersey back in the day.
Do you know what Mark Malone and Larry Bird had in common?
They were white.
What Mark Malone and Larry Bird had in common?
I said they were white. That was it.
Besides that,
That was it.
They
That
both
was
had
it.
the bounce pass.
Right.
Look, that was it because Larry Bird was great.
Yeah.
Mark
I'll tell
Malone,
you what. I love Mark Malone because I knew the Steelers had no chance of winning while he was at quarterback.
Right.
No chance.
listen, this dude, Mark Malone was awful. So listen, guys, we're gonna close out this segment, man. But I have to shout out my guy, Mark Stover, for coming in. This isn't his arena per se. However, one of the reasons I brought him in is because he's always had an acumen for sports. He's always been very objective. That's one of the things that I prefer in the folks that I confide in terms of, you know, these are guys that can tell me that I'm wrong. These are guys that can tell me, and I'm way off base. So I appreciate.
Which happens a lot. That's a story for another day.
Shut up, fool. Ain't nobody talking to you. So I appreciate your time, Mark. I appreciate your time away from your family. Please kiss your entire family for me. Hug them. Let them know that Uncle Ron loves the kids. Appreciate you, bro.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, thank you. It was a pleasure talking to you.
Tell Sam and the kids hello. We send our love, and let's get together before or after one of these games and kill some chicken wings like we used to.
Well, can we get them from Hooters?
Wherever you want. Whatever you want to do.
Do they have a Hooters out your way by chance?
No.
Oh no, I'm sure they got a place where there's some.
Oh, there's a place.
Thanks, bro. Appreciate you, man.
Guys,
all right, Mark. Take
All
it easy,
love,
man.
bro. All love, man.
Love you guys.
Appreciate that, man. That was dope.
Yeah.
That was dope.
We'll definitely have to do that again, man.
We got to do that
Good
again.
to have
Again,
a different perspective on things.
yeah, just a different angle. You know, somebody else to bounce stuff off of. I like that. I think that worked out well. I think he stayed in his pocket like we needed, and I appreciate his take. Like he tends to always. He did exactly what I thought he would do. He always hits the smart angles of things, and I can't.
And he was also fair and objective.
You always hit the smart, objective angles of things, and he's that way. He's that way too. So while we're on the NFL, And now that we've moved past the Browns Steelers matchup. By the way, I don't think I said this, excuse me, earlier, but today is our midweek show / showdown because of the Browns Steelers. But since we've moved past the Browns Steelers, we're gonna get into our picks from last week and then get into our picks from this upcoming week. This past week.
Past week, right.
Sean
so far,
and I
we're tied. We're both 2-2.
We ended up 3-2 coming out of last week. Last week we picked, let me go back and take a look. Our games were, bear with me for about 2 seconds.
I got them down. We had the Broncos, Jets, the Bills, Raiders, and Eagles, Niners, and then we did the Browns. Who did we
Browns,
play?
Colts.
Browns, Cowboys.
It was the Browns, Colts. That was the week before, sir. You tripping.
I thought you was trying to go back and explain how we had to be 2-2.
This last week that we just had.
I got those games too. My bad, America.
Would you read those?
Right,
Damn,
Raiders and Chiefs.
Read the other ones.
Right, I read the wrong one. We had the Raiders and Chiefs, the Bengals and Ravens, the Jaguars and Texans, and Buccaneers and the Bears, and then we had the Browns and the Colts. There we go.
That turmeric and ginger is working on your stomach, homie.
Right, I had some spiked over there. My bad, but we're good to go.
We picked the Bucks and Bears. We both picked the Bucks in the Bucks-Bears games. We picked the Bucks. The Bears actually won that game. I don't know how the hell that happened. But
because the Bears aren't good. They aren't.
The Bears are not good.
But they find a way to win. It's NFL. Find a way to win. Find a way to win. W is a W.
Now, we picked the easy game or a game that we thought was an easy game.
Thought was easy.
The Chiefs and the Raiders. And guess what happened? In Arrowhead, by the way, the Chiefs found a way to lose that game. I mean, how the hell do you outscore the Chiefs? That's tough.
Right. Not only did the Chiefs lose, the Chiefs cost me in my fantasy game because me and my infinite wisdom, I put Indianapolis's defense on the bench and started.
You started theirs?
Yes. I started the Chiefs defense because the Raiders never played the Chiefs well. I mean, the Chiefs been beating up on the Raiders for the past 5 years, and
it's a divisional game too.
Right, and the Chiefs got me with their defense a -2.5 points. That's how bad they played, and that cost me my fantasy game. But so we both picked the Chiefs, so we lost that one too. Yeah, so we're down 0-2 so far.
Then there was the Ravens and Bengals. We both picked the Ravens. I think that was an easy pick.
Yeah, definitely.
The Ravens are a much better coached team, and that's what we saw. So the Ravens won. So that was my first bet.
Yeah, they wiped them out. That game was over in the first quarter.
Yeah, it was from what I saw. I didn't actually watch the game. So then there were the Texans and the Jags. We both picked the Texans. The Jags are a shit show. They're not good, and that's what we both relied on. And guess what? We were right.
They have some talent. They have some players.
No, it's not that they don't have a talent. Listen, we've had talent. It's a shit show.
Yeah,
like when you're not totally put together in terms of how you're gonna put the talent together.
Right.
You're gonna always have a
They're
problem.
just extremely, extremely inconsistent.
Extremely. And then there was the Browns-Colts game. I don't know if any of you guys watched it. I don't know if any of you guys cared to watch it. However, the Browns decided that the Colts did not belong in their house, and they kicked them out. We won that game, and that gives us both 3 wins and 2 losses for the week, which brings our grand total for the 2 weeks that we've been doing the picking to 5 wins and 4 losses for the both of us. At some point, Sean is going to start picking his own games and stop piggybacking on my shit.
Really?
So.
Really? Okay. You got the king biter over here. Yes, I'm using for any millennials listening. out there. The term biting is a hip hop term, meaning that you
They don't know. Oh, come on, man.
right. They don't know about copying my like yeah, hip hop now. You can take somebody's whole verse. You can sound like them. Nobody says
song. You can
yeah,
use
you
the
rip off the whole
entire
song.
dog.
Right. Back then, back in the golden era of hip hop, you could not even sound like you couldn't even have the same name.
Yeah, man.
You couldn't sound like anybody. You took somebody's verse, you getting caught out.
I just heard Rakim say he still was kind of feeling some kind of way about Summertime with Will Smith because he sounded just like him in it. He was like,
right. Well, there was a rumor that Rakim wrote it,
but
he debunked
Summer Madness. Remember, Summer Madness was in one of his things.
Mm-hmm.
So I think they wanted him to do it, and he didn't do it, or they couldn't get him to do it, so they gave it to Will, and Will did it just like Rakim would have done it, and he felt some kind of way about it.
Right.
So, but
I bought that album too. I bought that because I was never a Will Smith fan. I liked
that was dope.
Maybe 2 songs of Will's. I like Brand New Funk, and I like Summertime. So I was working this is my first job working at the Woolworths cafeteria diner at Richmond Mall, busting suds. So one of the servers was like, "Man, I just bought that new Will Smith album. I think it was called Home Base. You gotta go. Yep. It's good from the beginning to the end." Man, I bought that tape and threw it away the same day, and I still want my $12.50 back. That album was terrible. That was one of the worst albums I ever heard. The only good song on there was Summertime.
Summertime was dope, though. But
that was the only good song.
Other than that,
I should just bought the single. You remember back in the day when you could buy a cassette single?
Just buy the single, bro. They don't know nothing about buying singles.
You could buy a cassette
single.
They don't know nothing
about buying singles either.
Right.
But
I literally threw that tape away the same day.
Let's move. Listen. First of all, that is the craziest. But that knowing Sean, that's what happened. But let's move on to our picks for the week. I have Washington football team versus the New York Giants. The football team is 1-4, and the Giants are 0-5. But somehow we got the Giants minus 2.5.
Is the game in New Jersey?
It is in New Jersey. So they're getting that edge.
Washington is a little bit in disarray with the whole Dwayne Haskins thing. Coach Rivera is going through his chemo. Shout out to Coach Rivera. Get well soon.
Absolutely.
I'm going with the New York Football Giants.
You're going with the Football Giants. I'm picking the Washington football team. Why would I go with the Washington football team? Well, both of these teams offensively are awful. Their both offensive lines are not good. Now, they both have decent defensive football teams. However, I think Kyle Allen at quarterback is better than Daniel Jones. I think
it's not saying much.
And it's not. It's not. But we also don't know that Kyle Allen is going to play. Preliminary stuff doesn't have him definitely playing. He's still probably
picking the Giants
because he got hurt last week. So if Alex Smith plays, I could easily change that in my thought process. But I'm gonna just stretch out and suggest that the football team, the Washington football team, is gonna win that one. The next game that I put down is the Broncos and the Patriots.
The Broncos and who? Bengals. Your audio went out on me a little bit.
I'm sorry.
Go ahead and speak now. It's still a little low. And now you're freezing on me. So it looks like we're having a few technical difficulties, and I'm sure RP's in the process of getting everything together. Yeah, you're back now.
again, that game is the Broncos versus the Patriots.
Patriots.
Yeah. So I'll lead this one. First of all, Brian Hoyer is not a good quarterback.
No, he's not.
He
hasn't been the same. He hasn't been the same since he got benched for Johnny Manziel.
Well, can you blame him?
Yeah, I mean, he used to be serviceable. You know,
I
but now
don't know if he was serviceable anymore, bro. Like, I don't see him the same way. Stidham is the third string guy because Hoyer got hurt in the last game and he stinks too. They're both for the Patriots. I'm not sure when Cam is coming back, but I'm certain that it'll probably be another quarterback starting.
Because you have to once you get put on the injured reserve, you have to sit out at least 3 games.
Yeah.
So yes,
it's probably going to be Hoyer, but the Broncos are in a worse spot, to be honest. So with the Patriots being at home and with them having Bill Belichick, I just expect the Patriots to pull that out. Ain't it crazy to have a guy that you almost can't bet against? Like, I don't know what that is. I like to think that the Browns have that, or at some point have had that, or the Cavs, or the Indians even at some point. But no, I don't know that we've ever had it where we were just like, oh, we got Joe Torre, or we got, Phil, or we got any of those coaches that you just think are just gonna win it.
Yeah.
It don't ever happen to us.
Well, I felt like that when we had LeBron. At times.
At times.
And
that's it. At times. I didn't feel, but that's what I mean. Like when the Patriots show up and you got Belichick.
I get what you're saying.
When the Lakers showed up and they had Pat Riley and Magic, you just felt like you ain't winning that game.
Right.
That's not necessarily what always happens. It damn sure ain't what happened. When you got Coach Lennon and Hot Rod, we lose in the night, player.
Man, lay off a Hot Rod and Coach Lenny, man. Shout out to Coach Lenny Wilkins, one of the greatest coaches in the history of the NBA.
He is absolutely one of the greatest.
He couldn't get over the hump at times, but as far as X's and O's and execution, man, he was a damn good coach and a good guy.
He was one of the best coaches that have ever coached the Cavs, and maybe one of the best coaches in the NBA. Go ahead with your pick for the Patriots and Broncos.
I'm gonna go with the Patriots as well.
Okay. Now we're rolling into the Packers and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. 4-0 Packers, 3-2 Bucks. The Bucks are at home. The Bucks lost last week, but they also lost one of their best defensive players, or their defensive tackle. Aaron Rodgers is looking like Aaron Rodgers. If you can, if that, moves you any one type of way.
Yeah, he looks healthy, man. He
looks very healthy. And he ain't being put on his ass, by the way.
Right. And he looks like he has a point to prove, man. He's playing with a huge chip on his shoulder. And because of that, I'm going with the Pack. I'm going with Green Bay.
I'm going with Green Bay as well. I think that's a game that is, especially without the crowd, I think that could be a game that they can pull out. In our fourth game, we have the Cowgirls versus the Cardinals. The Cardinals are 3-2 with Kyler Murray as their quarterback, and then you have the 2-3 Cowgirls with the Red Rifle.
Yeah, Andy Dalton.
Andrew Dalton.
And that game is in Phoenix, right? So
I think it's in Dallas. I could be wrong.
Let's see.
Do the research, homie. I looked it up. I thought I may have written it down wrong, but I have it down there.
You're right. It's in Dallas. You're correct. It's in Dallas, but Arizona is favored by 2. I'm going to go with the Cowboys.
They're favored by a full 2?
2 points.
The
I'm
Cardinals?
going with the Cowboys. The reason why I'm going with the Cowboys is now that Dak is hurt, everybody's written the Cowboys off. And they probably are as far as being a Super Bowl contender. But Andy Dalton is not a complete bum. He's a veteran quarterback. He's gotten the Bengals to the playoffs several times, which is a defeat in itself. Now, he hasn't won a playoff game, but he's won some games in the NFL. So he's not going to come in and be completely overwhelmed by the situation.
Yeah, he won't be like
Dallas. Yeah, and Dallas still has weapons. Arizona, being a young team, might come in like, well, okay, we don't have to worry about Dak, and they may let their guard down a little bit. Also, I feel that Dallas is going to be a little bit desperate, even though they won that game last week. Their division is weak and it's still for the taking. So you're at home. You lost your last home game when the Browns came in. You have a point to prove. You want to prove that you can win without Dak Prescott. So I think that the Cowboys are going to show up on Monday Night Football. Andy Dalton is not going to have a great game, but he'll have a good game. And I think they'll go ahead and pull this game out.
Well, you're right. Andy Dalton isn't the worst quarterback that's ever played football. However, he's awful. I hate him, and I probably always hate him because he used to be a Cincinnati Bengal. I won't let that go. Like, it's not his fault that he got drafted by him. However, now you're just marked for death as far as I'm concerned. And he stinks, by the way. That said, they do actually have weapons outside of him. The game doesn't rest on his arm, which is good for Dallas. I don't know that the Cards can stop Zeke. Zeke actually looked pretty solid last week. It's the first time I've seen him look like Zeke all season. And if they just stick to that game plan, putting Zeke in, where he needs to be, getting him the touches that he needs, I don't think that Arizona can slow him down. Dallas actually has a good defense. So whatever Kyler Murray presents for them, now they're gonna have to deal with what's my guy name? He used to be in the Texans, D Hop. They're gonna have to deal with D Hop. But I think, I mean, and they got to deal with Larry, but Larry's not Larry right now. So
no,
it's not like you're dealing with Larry Fitzgerald from 2010. You know what I mean? You're dealing with Larry Fitzgerald from 2020. So I'm picking the Cowboys as well. I think the Cowboys will take that one. I think and again, they're at the $1 billion playpen. So I just expect for them to get that dub. So now we're moving on from football. That was actually pretty solid. I like our football thing for this midweek. I like having another guest in. Just gave me somebody else to bounce stuff off. I think we got to do that a little more often. However, let's move on to the Major League Baseball playoffs, or as Major League Baseball likes to call it at this particular stage, it's not just the playoffs. We are in the League Championship Series. So in the American League, I think they're getting ready to play, or they've already started playing.
Yeah, I'm turning to that game right now so I can get it quick.
But right now, the Tampa Bay Rays are up 3-0. I didn't see that coming. Even though I picked them to win, I didn't see them being up 3-0, almost getting ready for the sweep tonight,
right.
Potentially. They had a tough game last night. Jose Altuve stunk up the place. He
pulled a Chuck Knobloch.
Man, didn't he? He was booting. Listen, bro, this dude hasn't had an error. And this is why it's a big deal. This dude hasn't had an error all season long. And he's had 3 errors in the last 2 games, like in crucial moments. So you know how the playoffs are, Sean. When you get a guy on base by accident, you already know what that could potentially mean. It ruins your chance of any level of momentum. Like, the playoffs, to me, kind of what we were just saying about, Phillip Rivers, what Mark was saying about Phillip Rivers. What playoff win did you get, homie? When did you show up in that big game that made the difference, that made me say, yo, this dude is great? Jose Altuve having those, booting those plays. I mean, he threw this thing. I saw him get the damn play at first base and just try to turn two, throw it to second, and legitimately throw that joint right in the dirt. Like it skipped into left field, bro.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it just skipped like between third base and left field. Like how did that even happen?
Right.
So,
he just had a case of the yips.
And that's bad for them. But, when you're cheating, maybe you don't have all the signs. You don't know where the hell to be.
Yeah, exactly. That's karma.
So that's
all it is.
That full ass.
I don't know why he threw the ball in the dirt. Karma. Karma slapped his hand like, that ball out your hand, son. So
I think we both picked the Rays to win that series. And as of right now, it looks like that will probably occur. Moving on to the NLCS, the National League Championship Series.
But let me give them a quick update on the score, though. Right now, it's Houston is up 1-0 in the bottom of the third.
Who's up 1-0? I'm sorry, I didn't hear you.
Houston. Houston's up on the
Okay, so Houston is up 1-0 in the third, bottom third.
Yes, bottom of the third inning.
Okay, 1-0. And listen, I'll tell you what, and we know this. 1-0 in a playoff game is like being up 2 points in an NFL game with the other team with the ball. Like, it's so tense. Like,
yep. If you're a baseball fan and your team is in that situation, a 1-0 tight game, it's the most stressful thing ever because you literally live and die with every pitch at that point.
It is so freaking tense. You go, especially like when you're like, where we at? Oh, we're at 6, 7, 8. All right, we might be able to get through this. Oh, it's still 1-0, and we at 2, 3, 4.
Right.
You're like, oh my God, how many pitches? Oh, he's on his ninth pitch with the third guy in the lineup.
Bottom of the ninth, and if we want to walk the leadoff hitter.
Oh my God,
just make it even more stressful.
We've seen it.
Yeah.
So so moving forward, we good. We can move forward to the NLCS.
Yes, sir.
All right, so moving on to the NLCS, the Dodgers Braves. The Dodgers are winning tonight, or have won. I don't have my computer with me right now, so I'm at a little bit of a disadvantage.
It's like in the 8th inning, I believe. They're going to a commercial, and the Dodgers are still up 15-1.
Okay, so the Dodgers jumped out real quick. They didn't mess around. They jumped out real quick. They were up 15-1 like in the second, third.
They scored 13 runs in the first 3 innings. And I think they just kept up the momentum from yesterday because the Braves were up, I believe, 6-0 early. And the Dodgers made a game out of it and
they did. Losing. They ended up losing. They tried that late inning comeback and it didn't work the way that they would have preferred for it to work. And I agree with you. I think maybe, and I wasn't going to say that, but I think you're absolutely right. I think the momentum probably is carrying over. Like they feel like, no, we need to jump on these guys or we need to get them and keep those bats hot. So it's happening. They need it because if they didn't win this game or if they don't win this game, I doubt that they're not being up so much. But if they don't win this game, they're down 3-0. So winning this game kind of levels certain things out and gives them an opportunity. Again, I picked the Dodgers. Sean picked the Braves, which is okay. Listen, the Braves and the Dodgers, they seem like they're always in the playoffs every stinking year. And I'm not hating.
Especially the Braves since like 91.
I just don't like the damn Braves.
Since like 91, 92.
It's like
Braves have always been around,
We moved to Warrensville when I was in 5th grade, so I was like 10, 11. That's when me and Sean met. But when we moved to Warrensville, we had this brand new thing called basic cable. And we were capable of seeing, we used to watch the Mets. That's one of the reasons why anybody who knows me, Sean knows this. One of my favorite players of all time is Darryl Strawberry, because I could watch the New York channel, which always showed, it was WWOR.
Yep.
And it was in Secaucus in New Jersey, but they always played the Mets games. So I got a chance to watch Darryl Strawberry and Doc Gooden, you know, that whole squad when they were winning the championship that year. And I was number 18 and number 44 all the time because of Darryl Strawberry. I didn't even realize that Reggie was 44, but I was doing that after Darryl Strawberry. Same thing happened with the Cubs. I watched a lot of Cubs games, but the reason I brought that up is because we also had WTBS, which became TBS, which meant we watched every stupid, or had the opportunity to watch every stupid Braves game that ever came on TV.
And they were terrible.
The Braves were horrible. They were horrible. But I remember they had Dale Murphy, and then they got this kid, this David Justice kid. And then they got this other kid, this stupid Chipper Jones kid. And all of a sudden, these guys were winning. Terry Pendleton, winning. They couldn't stop winning.
And maybe had the best pitching rotation in the history of baseball.
They had, well, listen, I could have the best pitching rotation if I could throw 6 feet off the goddamn plate.
Man, that's a whole nother story. That's another story.
Not do that. Look, listen, we're not finna do that. I'm about to pull this sweatshirt off. If we about to do that, I'm about to pull this sweatshirt off.
Yeah. So, but as it stands, just to recap, the Dodgers are up on the Braves in the series 2-0, but it looks like it'll be 2-1 after this game here.
Yeah. So now this is a tough one for me because I don't want to have this segment. I don't want to talk about this. However, my partner,
it's the hot topic right now.
My tag team partner, I got it. He wanted, and he thought, he felt, he believed that this was something that. Now here's the difference though, everybody. Before I even get all the way in it, my partner, while I didn't want to talk about it, and I don't think he does either, he had a caveat that I couldn't pass up. So I don't want to talk about this. It is the hot topic. It is that thing but it's always the freaking stupid topic. That one caveat was, let's talk about it and put it to bed. It's something that we won't.
This will be the last time I talk about this with anybody.
We won't talk about this again. And I've taken a back seat in talking about it. I bring it up, I mention it, and we actually talked about it a couple shows ago. So if you guys are kind of like, what are you talking about? We're talking about the NBA finals happened and they're over, and the Los Angeles Lakers won the championship, which gave the Lakers their 17th, which tied them with the Celtics. But it also gave LeBron James his 4th championship in his career. And he's had an awesome career, by the way. So the question comes up all the time. The question will continue to come up, especially I think it'll come up for forever, but it'll definitely continue to come up as long as LeBron is still in the league. Chasing numbers and chasing, whatever records that he might end up walking down. That's not a shot, by the way. As I said it, I was like, somebody's gonna hear that and say it's a shot. It's really not a shot. The longer you play, and especially being as good as LeBron is, you have an opportunity to win or to capture another category. So the longer he plays, the more this will continue to be a situation. So the question is, and I'm gonna let Sean speak. The question
Yeah.
is,
So the question
LeBron
is,
the GOAT? Is LeBron the GOAT? Go ahead, Sean.
and this is the way, because I had to kind of step back from the way that I look at it and kind of reevaluate the way that I look at it. To me, because we both have seen their careers from beginning to end. We've seen Jordan all the way from North Carolina, all the way through to the time that he was with the Washington Wizards. We've seen LeBron all the way from St. Vincent St. Mary's High School in Akron up until now. And just based on what I've seen objectively, even though LeBron has played in Cleveland for 11 years and also won a championship here and brought us our first championship in 52 years. I still say that Michael Jordan is the greatest player that I've ever seen in the NBA. But I say that without disparaging LeBron's legacy and his accomplishments that he's garnered throughout his career. I think that, notwithstanding, LeBron is easily like the second greatest player to ever play. And that's not a slight at all. And I can even see the arguments that people make, for him being the greatest. But I think it's gotten to the point, just seeing how people are debating online, people are now taking it personal. And I think it's getting kind of silly. So when people are making their arguments about who's the greatest, instead of giving both their just due, they have to find a way to disparage the other guy and make an argument for why they're guy. And I think that's ridiculous. So now that's why I had to step back. I was like, you know what? I'm not debating people about this anymore, because now it's getting silly. Now, if you want to sit there and bring facts and have some logic and reasoning behind your argument, I'll go ahead and I'll discuss it with you. But when you start saying stuff like, the other day, one of my partners posted on Facebook saying that Michael he needed Scotty and a great coach, and Phil and LeBron, all he needed was the ball. And I'm like, come on. Somebody said that Michael Jordan's roster was way better than anything LeBron ever played with. Talking about Michael had multiple Hall of Famers. And I'm like, Michael played, if I'm correct, with 2 Hall of Famers. And not his whole career. Now, he played with Scotty almost his whole career.
You can't have a Hall of Famer until they make the Hall of Fame, by the way.
Exactly. And Rodman. Now, most of the people that LeBron played with, as far as superstars, are still playing outside of Dwayne Wade. But we know that Dwayne Wade is a Hall of Famer. But after it's said and done,
and maybe Chris Bosh.
Right.
Maybe Chris Bosh.
Well, the NBA, they don't really have a stringent criteria.
You can get in because you played for 10 years.
Yeah, right. And Chris Bosh has numbers for the time that he played.
I don't think he's the first ballot guy, but I think Chris Bosh could potentially. And hell, if Tracy McGrady made it, I think Chris Bosh could make it.
Right. So, so my thing is now, just let them both be great in their own way, and you can have your opinion. If you think LeBron is the greatest and you have legitimate takes, that's your opinion. Like, I'm not some type of guru or like my opinion is be all end all. You know what I'm saying? So that's fine. But if you want to have a debate, just bring some legitimate argument to the table instead of garbage. Now, the main reason why all people put Michael over LeBron is just that I saw LeBron tap out twice. And that, he knew that he wasn't going to be able to win that series, and he kind of took his foot off the gas. And that's not me really like dogging him for that. That happens sometimes. I'm sure he's not the only great player that's done that, but I've never seen Michael do it. Michael always went out on his sword, even, when he was losing before he won his championships. Michael laid it all out on the floor and left it there. So that's really my main thing now as far as overall ability. You want to talk about just pure basketball ability. LeBron is probably better than Mike because LeBron's able to do a little bit more as an all-around game as far as getting everybody else involved. But as far as like the heart, the will, the tenacity, I've never seen a player say, I'm not losing anymore, and did. That last time he lost to the Pistons in the Eastern Conference Finals, he's like, I'm not losing anymore. And it took him to retire in the middle of his prime for them to, you know, lose a couple of playoff appearances. So that's kind of my argument. And then one point, and I'll let you speak. My boy, if you listen to this podcast, my boy Jacob.
Make Jacob listen, because Jacob, we brought you up. You got to listen. You got to listen to the whole 2 hours, man.
Exactly. He made a good point. He said instead of trying to classify a GOAT, this is the only sport we do this in, really, have this argument. Football, yeah, kind of with Jim Brown or whatever, but not to the fervor that we do with the NBA. Instead of just classifying a GOAT, maybe rank guys based on their position. Because then it's a little bit more of a fair.
It's a fair thing, but it's still going to be an issue to put that too.
Yeah, but then
I've seen those arguments too, but
it's going to be hard to put Kobe above Mike if you just categorizing shooting guards. Now you have some idiots out there that will.
Yeah, oh no, this is going to happen.
Because there is what I call the KB24 cult. There's a Kobe Bryant caught and I've seen it for LA.
Look,
I had my Cavs hat on and they were booing me in the bar. I'm like, we don't even play y'all all like that. It's like, well, we don't like LeBron. I'm like, why?
Twice a year. We play y'all twice a year. Relax.
Yeah, like what's the beef? They was like, we don't like LeBron because of the whole LeBron, who's better, LeBron or Kobe thing.
Oh my gosh.
You know, and I'm like, seriously, I was like, we don't think in terms of that in Cleveland. We don't have no people in Cleveland love Kobe. But they could not stand LeBron out there in LA, man. It was the strangest thing. But that's my take on it, man. And I kind of just, my thing is, once LeBron is done with his career, then you can go back and reflect objectively and then look at it, and then you can make your argument from there if you want to. At this point, like I said, after we talk about this today, I'm done with it because the stuff that I'm seeing online right now is some of the most ridiculous stuff that I've ever seen in my life. I'm like, you guys are just making up stats, and a lot of it is some of these guys have never seen Mike really play at all. You know, so they're just going off thinking. You watch some of these old highlights, you're like, oh, these guys are old. Foley, his competition wasn't good.
And if they did, they saw him play with the Wizards or something like that.
Right. Right. But go ahead, man. I kind of already know what your take is, but you can go ahead and let it.
Mine is a little bit more layered than yours. I think what you said is actually my sentiment. You know, I got tired of arguing back and forth because ultimately I wasn't trying to argue. I was really just trying to put things in perspective. And people don't always understand perspective. Like, we live in this era of either you agree with me or you're a hater.
Right, exactly.
So you can't have a take. You can't have a thought process. You can't have a difference of opinion. You got to think what I think. Otherwise, you hate.
And the term hater has been used. It's totally
overused
out of context now.
Completely and totally out of context.
People just throw that word out every time you disagree or you a hater.
Me and you are old enough to remember when hater became the word. It was in the 90s. Yeah.
So why you want to play a hate on me? And it maybe E40, the whole Bay Area had the lingo and stuff like that back then.
And then Puffy and them came out with the PhD, the player hater degree, and all that stuff. So, like, everybody takes the hating kind of out of context because just because I don't want to do what you do don't mean I'm a hater. it just like if I don't eat pork, I'm a pork hater. I got a pork phobia. I got a pork phobia now.
And really, the term hater was really about you being jealous. Player hating, like you jealous of me. Like,
listen, bro.
And now it's just
that's it.
All out of context.
It's just being misused. It's just people who don't want to, like, we don't know how to discuss things anymore. So you get that in relationships. You get that everywhere because you don't think what I think in a relationship because we don't agree all the time that we're not soulmates. What? Right. Who agrees? If you live with any one person, who agrees on everything all the time? Nobody.
Matter of fact, that would be boring.
Man, please. That would be totally
super boring.
So nobody's hating. I'm not a hater. Now, I'm going to be clear. I want to be absolutely clear, which is why I say mine is a little more layered. I'm not a LeBron fan, but I'm not a LeBron hater. I do not hate LeBron. I do not like everything that LeBron does. I do not like everything that LeBron says. Because I've had a personal dealing on more than one level with LeBron, I actually understand certain things that LeBron says because I've seen it kind of behind the veil a little bit. So I have a different opinion than everybody else. I don't always talk about that stuff. I don't always go into detail about that stuff, and I don't have to. To me, I'm just being honest. Knowing all the things that I know, I could be the biggest hater on the planet. I could. I'm not, though. Sean knows this, like anybody who knows me for more than 15 years or for 10 minutes knows. My favorite player in basketball is Magic Johnson, period. It hasn't changed. It hasn't switched when Magic wasn't Michael Jordan anymore. It didn't switch when LeBron showed up. It's still Magic Johnson. But these guys think that you are supposed to just love LeBron. My biggest problem is not necessarily LeBron versus Mike. My biggest problem is the LeBronaholics, or the Bronsexuals, or these dudes that love this dude. So and my problem is I grew up in an era of Ice Cube. When Ice Cube say, woman, you could ride, a man be a man. Shake my hand and make it a firm shake. Say what up, Ice Cube, and then break. Because if you hang in there, I'm going to tell you loud and clear. Get off my shit and tell you to come here. You know what I mean? Like, man, why are y'all riding this guy so tough and you're okay with it as a grown man? I don't get it. Like, I don't understand how nothing this guy does makes you upset. I said the same thing about Obama. I don't think that there's any one individual entity anywhere. Listen, I love my mother to death. Do you know how many days that I've lived and I've been pissed off at my mother? So if I've been pissed off at my mother and I love her to the last second of life in my breath, you mean to tell me you love this dude more than your mama? You just gonna ride with this dude no matter what? Do you ride with your mama like that? And if you do, there's something wrong if you ride with your mama like that. Because I don't even ride with my kids like that. When my kids are wrong, I'm going to tell my kids they wrong. When my kids are right, I'm going to tell you they right. And I'm going to stand up for them either way. But when they wrong, I'm going to correct that. Y'all cats will defend this dude to the last second. And this dude, like Sean has alluded to, has quit. He's quit more than once, by the way. And not just because he left Cleveland. He quit. He flat out quit. He quit. I ain't never seen Magic Johnson quit. Not quit.
No.
I might have seen him be like, damn, we just lost. and we down 25, so ain't no reason for me to kill myself, but quit. And I damn sure ain't never seen Michael Jordan quit. I watched Kobe
Bird.
So I'll say that. I saw Kobe quit, but I ain't never seen Larry Bird quit.
Yeah, I saw, you know what, Kobe quit that Phoenix series when he was pissed.
Yep,
and he just passed the ball. Yeah, he wouldn't shoot that whole second half.
Yep, he was mad as hell. I watched him, and I saw it, and I'm not going to act like it didn't happen. I wasn't a big Kobe fan either. But I tell you what, I'd take Kobe over LeBron in a heartbeat. Because his freaking will, it's not about every. LeBron could gather every stat on earth. Every single stat. That's what he's doing anyway. He's trying to gather stats to make the stats matter. The stats don't freaking matter. It's how you play the game. I'm so glad to hear, but here's my bigger issue. This is my bigger thing. And this is why I stopped having that argument. And this has been my take for a long time. At the end of the day, it's the eras. The eras matter. I watched Kareem say this today, and I was so glad that he said it because I've been saying it for about 2 years. Kareem said he was on First Take today, and I hate First Take because of Stephen A. But when I saw that Kareem was going to be on there, I had to watch it. I had to watch that segment. And he said the same thing. It's about eras. Michael says the same thing. It's about eras. If you played in an era where we didn't have a 24-second clock, how can I even compare what we do? I can't. So now Mike played in the era where there was a 7'3" dude, nondescript 7'3" wall camped in the middle. There was no defensive 3 seconds. I could put my elbow in your back. I could push you. I could slap you in the face. I could give you the Ric Flair eye gouge or give you the
right.
tomahawk chop.
Right.
And it's just going to be called a regular foul. The three-pointer is not that it didn't exist. It wasn't that important. Now we play in an era where the three-pointer is super, super, super important. And there's all kind of space all throughout the floor. It doesn't mean that these guys aren't as good. It doesn't mean that these guys aren't as important. It means the game is different. So to try to compare what this guy did versus what that guy didn't do based on these rules that confine me in this versus the rules that let you loose in that is silly. It's silly. It's the simplest argument on the freaking planet. Mike played in a different era. So when you're looking at numbers and all that stuff, you can't compare the numbers. You can't. What Mike was asked to do and the way that Mike played was different than what LeBron is asked to do and the way LeBron plays. It's just different. Now,
that's true.
When it boils down to what makes a champion, Nick Wright said this, and it made me actually go back to the drawing board. This was a couple years ago. Nick Wright said, what did Michael Jordan do better than LeBron without saying 6 championships? Well, first of all, you can't leave out anything on a person's resume. Exactly. Whatever I did on my resume belongs on my resume because it's what I did. But those are the things that we're talking about. When you're trying to make a case for your guy, you want to demean what another dude did. So don't tell me that you ran a company successfully for 6 years straight. Or don't do that. Just tell me other things that you did other than that. Which is nonsense. That's a nonsensical argument for anybody who's not an intellectual, which most people who are in sports aren't necessarily the most intellectual people. But when you know how to debate and when you know how to have an argument, you will never let that go. So, first of all, that belongs in the argument. But secondly, being the GOAT has more to do with winning a championship than it does not winning a championship. Mike the intestinal fortitude and the things that dude showed us at times when we all thought at times Mike was going to lose this, or this was the opportunity, this was the chance. This dude only just stepped up to the plate every single time. Even when he lost, you said to yourself, the greats at that time, Larry Bird, Magic Johnson, they kept saying, I keep trying to bat this dude away, and this dude just keeps coming back.
Exactly.
And he keeps coming back better. And he just keeps coming right back in my face. He not even avoiding me. He coming right into my chest. And when the greats say that, the greats, not random players like Kendrick Perkins, who nobody would even know was in a doggone league if it wasn't for the dudes that played with him. We talking about actual greats in the game.
Right. And another point, too, people will say, because we live in the era of super teams and big threes, that they'll say, well, Jordan's competition wasn't as good in the finals as who LeBron had to play. In the way they have a point, in the way they don't. But because a lot of these young kids didn't see that era and didn't understand how that basketball was played back then, you would look at Seattle's roster and be like, oh, Seattle didn't have a squad.
Yeah, they suck.
Phoenix didn't have a squad, but we know because we grew up watching it, we knew that Phoenix actually had a better team.
Actually, Phoenix was favored in that series. People thought Phoenix was going to win that series.
Right. Also, Seattle.
And Seattle
Gary Payton and Sean Kemp and Detlef Schrempf, they weren't Swiss cheese.
They won 52 games, dog.
Yeah. The Utah teams. Utah was one of the most dominant teams in the Western Conference for what they just couldn't get over the hump because that ball head dude in Chicago was running around.
Bro, the second time that they played, because they played back-to-back years, the second time that they played, Utah had the home court advantage.
Sure did. And took them 7 the year before.
When they talk about, huh?
Yeah, they took them 7 the year before.
No, they took them 6. Mike never won.
No, they took them 6 the second time. The first time, I believe, they took them 7, didn't they?
No, Mike never won 7.
You never won 7?
Mike ain't never seen a game 7.
You're right. You're right.
And that's another reason why I'm like, because they should have lost. But everybody only remembers the shot where he shot over Byron Russell. He said on the play before, they ran the exact same play. And Malone was killing whoever they had on the post. So he said, when they set that play up, we was coming out of bounds. He said, man, when they set that play up, I looked over. I said, they're about to run that same play. He said, and I ran through. I was with Hornacek. He said, I ran through, and I stopped underneath the basket, and Carl didn't see me. And he swung back through, stole the ball from Hall of Famer. Didn't get a foul. Stole the ball, took it down, didn't call a timeout, and hit the shot that won his 6th championship for his team. Let me tell you something, man. And this is kind of towards what Mark was saying about Big Ben when he was on the show a little while ago. When you got a guy who's been in those fires, who's already proven that they can pull that off for you, you don't panic the same way. The reason we panic is we don't really have that. And even when we had LeBron, we really didn't have that. And that's not a knock. That's not me coming down on LeBron. That's not me hating on LeBron. LeBron is one of the greatest generational basketball players that we've ever seen. And he belongs on the Mount Rushmore of basketball, period. He does. Because he's changed how basketball is played. He belongs there. And I will advocate.
And I said he's not only changed the game on the court, but off the court too, as far as business-wise.
Right. So, and I will advocate for this dude to be on that Mount Rushmore or considered one of the greats. I advocate for him before I will Steph Curry. Because I think that the importance of the three-pointer changed how these guys played. Because there was a time, and Sean will tell you, let a dude had just crossed half court and Dame Lillard pulled up a three-pointer back in the 80s or 90s. Man, you to the bench, homie. I don't care if you made it or not. That's not part of the offense because that's not how the game was played. It doesn't mean that Dame ain't great. It doesn't mean that Steph ain't great. What it means is you got to consider the era. The eras matter. And you can't take that out of the situation. You got to call them what they are. And if you put a guy as capable as Michael Jordan in an era where he wasn't getting touched, I have a hard time believing that this dude couldn't average more than he averaged. I'm not going to put a number on it, but I'm going to say if you put him in this league right now, a prime Michael Jordan, right this second, it's going to be ugly for you. Because this dude going to score at will because he's a scorer. You dig? He's a scorer. And that's not an indictment on LeBron. LeBron is doing what LeBron can do. I think LeBron would still be a star if he had went and played in that era.
And to be fair,
I don't think he'd be as effective.
And to be fair and objective, there are things that I've seen LeBron do during the course of his career that I've never seen Jordan do.
For sure.
I saw LeBron score 25 straight points in a playoff game against the Pistons. Nobody else was doing anything, and LeBron scored the last 25 points in the fourth quarter in overtime. It completely
I watched that
over that game, and my mouth was open the whole time. My jaw was
I watched that same game.
I've never seen anything like that.
I'll tell you what, that was one of the greatest situations. That was one of the greatest circumstances. Like, I walked out of my house. At that time, I lived a little closer to downtown. I walked out of my house, man, and walked up to the corner so that I could see downtown from the overpass, and was just looking downtown like, I had to just come look to see if anybody else was out here to think what I was thinking. Like, that was incredible.
Right.
Which is why I say that it's not that the dude's not incredible. The problem I have is that everybody wants to say that Mike wasn't shit. Which is, if you say, piggybacking on what you said, if you say Mike wasn't shit, or Mike didn't do this, or Mike didn't, and that's your only take, bro, you don't know shit about basketball.
Exactly.
You don't know shit about basketball. And I love basketball too much as a student of the game, as a guy that watched, that played, that I tried to play like I heard Tommy Heinsohn and Hubie Brown articulate. I tried to play that way when they would say, Isaiah Thomas is such a smart player because of this. Then I'm like, shit, I ain't even think about that. Let me start doing that. That makes me a smarter player, right?
Those are the things. It's just some things that, and not to be the old head, in the house, but sometimes there were just some things back then that were just better. Now, especially the competitiveness of the league back then. I mean, it was a gauntlet. So there was no friends in the league. People weren't calling each other. I know free agency was different back then. It wasn't the same amount of player movement, but it never would have been a case where Jordan is going to call up Larry Bird and say, hey, man, we need to go ahead and team up together and blah, blah, blah.
It wasn't that they weren't friends. It was more like they had that respect for each other.
Yeah,
and
definitely.
The times that they were friends or friendly was only in spots. Like, they weren't texting. Well, they didn't have cell phones back then, so nobody was texting each other and all on their Facebook page and all that bull that we see now. Like, Magic and Michael were friends. I remember, again, on that documentary, The Last Dance, I remember seeing where they were in the back after they beat Indiana, and Larry Bird was back there. And he saw Mike, and Mike walked up to him like, hey, man, what's going on? And Larry Bird's exact words were, you motherfucker. Because they had just eliminated him.
Right.
Like, and they gave each other dap, and they gave each other a hug, and then you saw when they won the championship, Karl Malone came onto the bus.
Yep.
These dudes about to pull out. Karl Malone came onto the bus. Magic Johnson came into their locker room while they got champagne flowing. Like, that's just respect. That don't necessarily mean that we're friends. We can be friends after this. The only guys that was friends that we knew were Magic and Isaiah, and then Barkley and Mike when they played in 92, 93. We knew that they were friends, and it took, Barkley will tell you all day. He said, man, I thought I was a better basketball player than Michael Jordan until we played against each other. He said, after that game 2 or game 3, he said, I started looking around like, man, ain't nothing we can do with that boy.
Right.
And it's not that LeBron ain't that guy or that LeBron is bad. LeBron is an awesome, awesome, awesome talent. He's a guy that you got to account for. He's a guy that you have to understand how you're going to approach him and how you're going to play. He's not Michael Jordan, though. And this is coming from a guy that doesn't love Michael Jordan. I don't love Michael Jordan. I don't even love the era like that. Like, I'm so in love with the era, I just can't see outside of the era. No.
Right.
I know what that
personally
era
hated Michael
was.
Jordan. I mean, Michael Jordan personally destroyed the Cavs franchise and set our franchise back,
Yeah,
13 years.
He made a whole career almost of that.
Exactly. He literally dismantled our franchise.
He's the NBA's version of John Elway.
And I didn't really appreciate Mike until later on, until maybe like in the 2000s. Like, and I would go back and you watch the old games because I was so full of hate and disdain for him, during his career. I didn't appreciate the things that he was doing. I can honestly admit that. But like I said, man, like if you want to, make a case for LeBron and you come with legitimate arguments, like some people are just stats people. They'll look at the stats, when it's all said and done, and like, look, LeBron will probably end up being the all-time leading scorer by the time it's all said and done. People are going to use that argument, and that's fine. Just all I'm saying is, if you want to come with that argument, just come with some legit takes and some logic and reasoning behind it.
You gotta have some logic. You gotta have some logic. You gotta have some reason. It can't just be, and you have to be objective. Like, that's the thing that's missing, is the objectivity. Nobody is, no one is just, like willing to say, I'm not a Michael Jordan fan. However, he did do this, that, and the other, and you can't. Like I said on a post today, they like, my friend put it up. My friend Rich, he put it up like, oh, Michael Jordan. They got a picture of Michael Jordan after he won the game against Utah. No, it was against Utah. I was in the finals where he hit the shot and walked away and did this and was just walking down the court like with the fist up. Mm-hmm. And his thing was second best player ever. And my thing is, okay, so let's say that he's the second best player ever. What's wrong with that? And he was like, oh, nothing. I said, yeah, that's my point. So if somebody says that LeBron is the second best player ever, why do LeBron fans go berserk because you said that? Yeah, like, why do y'all go berserk because of that? And my thing was, it shouldn't matter either way. Why can't we just celebrate your guy? Because at the end of the day, no matter what I said, no matter what you just said, who the GOAT actually is an opinion. That's a person's opinion.
Part of it is, too, is this whole, we're, as a society, we're divided among many lines. And what's happening now is the old school versus new school stuff. Because the difference is, like, when we were coming up, we came up under the shadow of our parents. So we still were exposed to a lot of the things that our parents, like even their music, like hip hop, absorbed a lot of R&B, sampled R&B, jazz, exposed us to that type of music. Yeah. School, they would show reruns of Leave the Beaver. our parents were watching in prime time back in the day. So we still had a kind of connection that way. You know, it kind of bridged the gaps between their generation to our generation. Yeah, there was some conflict, of course, with any, you know, situation like that. But now these kids have grown up in a bubble with all this media, internet, computers. They've kind of grown up in their own bubble where they haven't had to, they weren't necessarily exposed to our stuff unless we go out of our
You got
way
to force
to
it on.
expose our
You almost
kids,
got to force it on.
yeah, or your younger brothers and sisters. Like I did with my baby sister. I should let her listen to some, you know, real hip hop. So although she still listens to trash like Moneybagg Yo, she can appreciate Outkast and Nas and Jay-Z and stuff like that. And she'll go out and research stuff. You know, she'll watch documentaries. But so that's what so basically to the younger generation, LeBron is their Jordan. So with us growing up
For sure.
watching Mike is the pimp. So they want to have, they were like, well, y'all trying to hate on our generation because you just Mike, and y'all denigrate LeBron. So they take it so personally, like that's their that's their king. So that's kind of why they try to hold on to that.
Well, you know what? And I'm gonna say this, and I don't mean to cut you off, homie.
No, you're good, man.
But I'm gonna say this. Part of what you're saying is absolutely true. Like I'm one of these guys that I believe that there is this chasm between the generations where, you know, the old school kind of feels like we better and the new school feel like they better, blah, blah, blah. I do feel like that exists. But I also think that
they feel disrespected too. They feel that we disrespect.
And listen, and in some cases they should. In some cases they should feel at least remotely disrespected. Especially for the folks that are of age enough to do certain things. But here's the thing though. You know, while they may feel disrespected by what our generation has said, you can't approach every situation like you disrespected me, son. Because sometimes you're right. Like if you got a standard automatic Mustang, let's just say. But this man over here got a stick shift 65 Mustang. And you think you're gonna dust this dude? Them two vehicles ain't even built the same, bro.
Right.
And you have to give that risk. Like, if we're gonna race each other, you have to respect what I do. You got to. If we're gonna face each other, if you can't respect what I do, you don't have to like what I do. You gotta respect it. Right. And if you don't respect it, that's why people get beat in the ring. That's why people get beat on the court, because there's no respect level. So I get it. I understand that they feel a certain kind of way about the respect. You know, but you have to give to receive, right? I got to give some respect to expect some respect. Now, I just want to touch on something real quick, and then we can close out, because we can take this thing into next week.
Right.
LeBron said something. So a part of the problem is LeBron. So the LeBronaholics, the LeBron sexuals, as I call them, they kind of live on the things that LeBron does and says. So after the game, on the court, this guy was asked about being the GOAT or what the GOAT. He says, "Oh, I'll leave y'all. Oh, that's up to y'all. I'll let y'all debate." Okay. Then he goes and puts out a tweet that basically says, eventually y'all gonna give me my respect, and y'all gonna do this, and they gonna understand all the things I put. Bro, you can't do both. You can't do both. You can't, on one accord, be like, oh, I'm all about y'all. Y'all do that, and I'm on some other stuff. And then you turn around and then want people to ride with you on this situation. You cannot do both.
But that's LeBron being his normal passive aggressive self.
And this is one of the reasons why he's not. This is one of the reasons to me why he's not the GOAT.
Yeah, that's always been his MO. You know.
But I'm glad we got that out the way.
Yeah, man. Like I said, you know, it's just getting silly, the stuff that I've seen. And people are, especially like the LeBron people, are just going out their way to try to get their point across. And I'm like, and then two, you know, another reason why I don't want to argue about it is I'm not going to change your mind. You're not going to change my mind.
Right.
So why even continue to? I mean, it is what it is. So now, right. So now I'm going to sit back and appreciate their greatness. And I'm interested in seeing now that kind of LeBron has kind of really submitted and stamped his legacy on the game. I'm interested now to see how he moves forward. He's going in to his 18th year. He really doesn't really have much. I don't think he's chasing Mike. I don't think he's going to try to chase 6 rings or 7 rings or anything like that. I think
I think he is. I think he is.
You think he is?
Yeah. He said it years ago, like, oh, I'm chasing ghosts. When he won here in Cleveland, he was like, oh, I'm chasing ghosts. And I'm like, what is he talking about? And the ghost he was talking about, as you listen to the rest of what he was saying, it was Mike.
Yeah, but you know what? Like, Father Time was undefeated. And he's been fortunate. He's been fortunate to only have
Father Time laid his hell on LeBron. I'll tell you that right now.
That's true.
Father Time laid his hell on LeBron. Like, LeBron is still rolling to be 35 years old, almost 36 years old. Now, it doesn't mean that he's going to keep up at this same pace, but while Father Time
let's see if the hunger is still there, especially with everything being in disarray. You know, the season is the scheduling is still kind of
here's some things that's being discounted though, homie. You know, Golden State didn't have nobody this year. They're gonna have a lottery pick.
Yep.
And everybody that was on that team that beat LeBron short of KD, they're going to show back up. And you got to see them dudes 4 times a year and possibly in the playoffs.
And they'll probably finagle another free agent.
And they'll probably
I really hope Giannis does not go there the year after.
I hope he doesn't either. I don't want to see that. I hate that whole talk, but I hope that doesn't happen. You also got to account for Brooklyn. If Brooklyn can stay healthy next year, like there's some teams that have pieces, and you got to also think there's a bunch of people that didn't even show up for the Clippers because it was the bubble situation. Right. So while the Clippers went home, they didn't have all their guns blazing. They just lost because they didn't have, what they needed to have, and they were.
You got some young guns coming up,
and you still got to deal with Denver.
Yeah, Denver and
an experienced Denver squad now.
Denver and Booker with Phoenix, they're coming up. Sacramento actually had a real coach.
Yeah,
they would be one of those teams on the rise, but they got rid of who was the coach they had? I think he came from Memphis, and I cannot think of his name. But he was a really good coach and had them moving up, but he fell out with Divac. Vlade is in the front office.
Yeah, well, not no more. Vlade gone now.
Yeah, is he?
Yeah.
Okay, because they brought in a new coach, and that guy can't.
Vlade still thinks that Marvin Bagley is better than Doncic. Or let me rephrase.
I thought Bagley would be better than what he is, but
he thought Bagley is gonna pan out so that it won't look so bad. But bro,
yeah, I don't know what's up with Bagley. Because Sacramento has some talent with Buddy Hield and De'Aaron Fox.
Yeah.
Some other guys, they should be a lot better than what they are.
They're one of the fastest teams. You just got to rein them in, like, in terms of a system. You got to give them a system to run in, and they don't have that right now. So, it just is what it is, man. I hope I never have to discuss the LeBron versus Mike as GOAT ever again in my life. I think it's one of the most tired. I think it's one of the most misunderstood situations. I hate it.
Right. And you know what it reminds me of? It reminds me of the whole Biggie, Jay-Z, Nas argument. It's the same thing.
When you say you a Pac fan,
Yeah, same thing. Right.
depending on what region of the world you in, man, listen, you can't tell nobody what they want to listen to or what your ears is sounding like.
I love both of them. I thought that argument was, when the whole West Coast, East Coast thing started, they wanted you to pick a side. I'm not picking a side. I love hip hop. I want to hear good music. What'd you say?
I was having a ball with it. I was listening to all that shit.
Right.
I was in the club like this. I was in the club like, what this?
Right.
Oh, shoot.
Exactly, man. I just love good music. I don't care what coast or what city it comes out of.
And what they ended up doing was creating a lane that was even bigger for the South, which I know y'all was already on the big being down in Alabama at that time. And it just allowed us who weren't in that particular region to love UGK more, to love Tila
Right.
more, to love, all them rap a lot, like all them cats. Like everybody that was on all those different labels back then, and of course Master P came out of some of that stuff. So I mean, this is why you can still have multiple people do the same thing and you still give everybody love. It doesn't have to be one way. So you can still love LeBron and give Mike some credit, and you can still love Mike and give LeBron some credit. However, you can't be a Browns fan and give the stupid Steelers any credit for anything.
Not at all.
Because they're idiots. And I only waited to say that to Mark, but Mark already knew it. I tell him.
Yeah.
I tell him to his face, what an idiot. So listen, man, we're gonna wrap this show. Sean, you got any last thoughts, any last second, wait before we go type things? You got anything, man? You're good? Want to announce something?
No, not at all.
Cookies coming out. I mean, what's up?
No, I probably will be having another cookie sale probably sometime next week. And when I do, I'll be posting that online. But as far as anything else, no, I don't have anything else going on. Nothing else to say, man. I think we pretty much covered everything I needed to be covered today. So I'm about to go ahead and get some sleep. I got to get up early tomorrow.
It was a mad long show, but it was actually long because we weren't supposed to do this LeBron segment.
But good content though, man. I think we had really
it was
good
great
content.
No, it was great content. So I hope you guys stuck with us the entire time. Again, we got a lot of hits on our last show, so I greatly appreciate you guys. We got a lot of subscriptions as well.
Definitely like and subscribe to our not Facebook page, but our YouTube page.
Please and thank you. Again,
Well, come to the Facebook page too.
Absolutely. On the YouTube page, it's Two Guys, TWO, Guys, and a Mic 216. Come to the page, subscribe. We'd love to see you. Comment. Tell us that we're full of shit. Tell us that this might be the best stuff you've ever heard. We like it either way, one way or the other. Let us know how you guys feel. Also, we do have a Facebook page, Two Guys, again, TWO, and a Mic 216 on Facebook. Come on, like some of our content. I put up a lot of sports content on a daily basis. Come in, let us know what you think.
Right, and you can dialogue with us that way too, because we post different news articles, various stories, and in the sports world, and you can comment, and we will reply to your comments. So.
We absolutely will reply. Like I would never leave you guys hanging like that. We would never leave you guys hanging like that. So come on, check us out. Also, you can email us at, again, Two Guys, TWO, and a mic at gmail.com. Excuse me, 2 guys and a mic 216 at gmail.com. Email us. Let us know if you like us. Let us know if you hate us. Let us know if you love us. Let us know if you'll never listen to us again, because it all means that you listened to us once, and we appreciate that. So thank you guys.
Yes, sir.
We appreciate you guys, Sean. I appreciate your time. I want to throw another shout out to my guy, Mark. I appreciate his time. I appreciate his contribution to our show. I think we just did another great show, Sean. So I'll see you on Sunday.
I agree. Hopefully, after a Browns victory, if we go into Pittsburgh and beat Pittsburgh, I'll be on cloud 9. I'll be sitting here with a fifth of Hennessy, a fifth of Gentleman's Jack.
Matter of fact, I'm gonna go get me some Ripple.
Right. I'm gonna have some smothered pork chops, man. I'm gonna do it up. If we go into Pittsburgh and win, man, oh my God. So let's go Browns. Let's go ahead and go into Pittsburgh. Even though I picked against you, against my squad, but let's go ahead and go and get this.
I don't know what's wrong. Listen, why do I do a show with a guy that picks against us? He's picked against us twice in the last 2 weeks. I don't know what's wrong with him. Damn.
Hey, I'm trying to be objective, and I think
he's trying to be objective, and I am too. But I'm also trying to have some hope, because I'm tired of us always losing.
Look, you know what? I was about to say something really out of pocket, but I'm not. I'm not gonna say it.
No, don't
anyway,
do it.
No,
don't do it. We need
good
to
night, everyone.
Because listen, we got listeners from my church. They already put us out of here and they curse. So don't say that totally out of pocket.
Exactly.
But listen, thank you guys,
everybody,
man.
have a
I
good night.
appreciate you, Sean, man. Love you, homie.
Love you too, man. You have
Peace.
a good one. All right.